Which team will be taking on Duke for the national championship? Georgia Tech and UNLV. That's coming up next. We'll be back in just a moment. Georgia Tech and UNLV next. And we're pleased to be joined by Coach Clem Haskins from Minnesota, who did a magnificent job this year with the Gophers, got them to the Final Eight. Clem, you were watching the first game. How did Duke win this one down the stretch?
I think two things was very important for Duke. The transition game was very good. So on the 2-on-1 and 3-on-2 break, they converted the basket. And also they did a super job of not letting the ball go in the post today, and they kept them on outside. Well,
you faced lethal weapon 3, Georgia Tech, in the Southeast Regional Final. How do you handicap this game against UNLV?
It's a magnificent 3. You're talking about Oliver and Scott and Anderson. 3 tremendous players going against a really well-balanced UNLV ball club. So I think their strength inside against the great outside shooting of Georgia Tech.
Coach, what happened to the Big Ten in this tournament? You got 7 teams in the field, and you carried the banner into the regional finals, but no one makes it here to the Final Four.
I think the conference is strong. Our Big Ten was awful strong. We beat up on each other pretty good, but I think it shows you the balance around the country. Just outstanding teams all over the country.
Clem, again, congratulations on a magnificent job in 4 years there at Minnesota.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us. Brent and Billy are coming up next with UNLV and Georgia Tech, and we'll resume here on CBS Sports after this word from your local station.
Denver, Colorado, and McNichols Arena. Game 2, and it will match the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets against the Runnin' Rebs of UNLV. And the winner will take on Duke Monday night for a championship. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brent Musburger. Georgia Tech, lethal weapon 3. You've heard about it. Let me show you how effective they have been. They are led by the freshman guard from New York City. And is he a wizard? Kenny Anderson, 21 points a game. But there also is solid senior leadership on the floor. Brian Oliver averaging 21. And then the fastest gun of the trio. Can anybody stop him? Dennis Scott averaging 28 points a game. Overall, they are accounting, Billy Backer, for 79% of the team total for Bobby Crimmins. Magnificent.
Well, Brent, normally that'd be a wipeout, but all of these players are so versatile on the perimeter, no team has really been able to match them up, so that's what makes them so tough.
Now, what about Dennis against Stacey Augmon, that matchup?
It will be extremely interesting. We have maybe the best offensive outside performer in the country against the best defender against that type player in the country. So maybe somebody's going to get the upper hand. I don't know. It could be a Mexican standoff there.
Billy, in coaching, you stand second to nobody in your respect for the legendary John Wooden. 10 championships, most wins ever in the tournament, 47. Then there's a great job by Dean Smith, 43 victories overall. Denny Crum at Louisville, 32. The legendary Adolph Rupp from Kentucky. But folks, it's becoming shark-infested waters. Number 4 in climbing, Jerry Tarkanian with 31. You forget how successful he's been as Leslie Visser is over there getting a late tip or two.
Well, Shark spent the first game just sitting in the crowd watching a game. He's a gym rat who has become one of the real legends in coaching.
All right, and he's got a man down on the low blocks, Larry Johnson.
Larry Johnson was the nation's leading junior college player last year, and many believe he may be the best player in Division I this year. Very difficult to stop in the low blocks. Great hands, powerful player, and really understands his role on this team.
Analyze this one for me, Coach.
Well, I don't know. We're going to have to see a game that I think is going to be a little different than the first one. One of the things is Rocky Mountain High, and I'm not talking about music here. I'm talking about the length of the bench. UNLV has a deep bench. Georgia Tech obviously does not. Augmentation. We talked about Stacey, what a great defensive player he is. He can guard anybody on the floor, the nation's best defender this year. And let's see what he can do with Dennis Scott. Can he do it? We're talking about Kenny Anderson, and the answer is yes. Maybe the best freshman guard ever to play college basketball. He'll be something to see today. And the three-point hunter, and I'm talking about Anderson Hunt. If he does not shoot well from the outside, Vegas has got some problems.
I just heard Magic Johnson saying, tell that man to hold on. But we're going to see the amazing Kenny Anderson when we come back in a moment.
CBS Sports coverage of this 1990.
And Bobby Crimmins, and inside that coat, pinned to the lapel, the shamrock in honor of his late father, who died 2 days after Christmas. And he was the man that Bobby most looked up to. Now we're going to meet the starting lineups. It wouldn't be a Final Four without Frank Fallon, so let's join him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the McNichols Sports Arena in Denver for tonight's national semifinal game between the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and the UNLV Runnin' Rebels. And now let's meet the starting lineups. For Georgia Tech at forward, a 6'8" junior from Reston, Virginia, number 4, Dennis Scott. For UNLV at forward, a 6'8" junior from Pasadena, California, number 32, Stacy Augman. For Georgia Tech at forward, a 6'10" freshman from Chattanooga, Tennessee, number 32, Malcolm Mackey. For UNLV at forward, a 6'7" junior from Dallas, Texas, number 4, Larry Johnson. For Georgia Tech at center, a 6'9" senior from High Point, North Carolina, number 44, Johnny McNeil. For UNLV at center, a 6'10" senior from Washington, D.C., number 00, David Butler. For Georgia Tech at guard, a 6'4" senior from Smyrna, Georgia, number 13, Brian Oliver. For UNLV at guard, a 6'1.5" sophomore from Detroit, Michigan, number 12, Anderson Hunt. For Georgia Tech at guard, a 6'2" freshman from Rego Park, New York, number 12, Kenny Anderson. For UNLV at guard, a 6'2" junior from Las Vegas, Nevada, number 50, Greg Anthony. And introducing the head coaches for Georgia Tech in his 9th season, Bobby Crimmins. For UNLV in his 17th season, Jerry Tarkanian.
Tarkanian in his 3rd Final Four, but he is still searching for that first elusive championship. Back with the tip-off. Referee Jim Bain of Mattoon, Illinois, will work alongside Dick Papero of Syracuse and Jim Stupin of Cypress, California. And in their dark road uniforms, Georgia Tech ready to do battle with the favorite to win it all, the Runnin' Rebs of Vegas in their white. Tap controlled by Georgia Tech. And that was Mackey, who strongly went back after it, number 32. One of the anonymous 2. Mackey and Johnny McNeil down on the blocks. The Wizard Anderson gives it up to the top. Oliver and Scott is for, being tracked by Augman on the left side. Has not yet touched it.
You see UNLV switching and Butler playing Kenny Anderson, and Butler can play a man that far with a great foot movement.
Anderson missing the game's first shot. Anderson Hunt takes a 3, and he is short. Anderson will track it down now. Here's Oliver. Rolls in the first field goal of the game, and Georgia Tech jumps ahead.
If people have never seen Kenny Anderson play, that hit-ahead pass is one of his real trademarks. You have got to get back on defense. Straight man-to-man.
They go into Johnson, who sends it back, and Hunt goes to Augman with a beautiful pass and a tie. For a second, I thought he was going to arch another 3, but it was a fine pass. Anderson finds daylight in Oliver. Beautiful pass and a wraparound.
Very uncharacteristic of UNLV not to get back on defense. Hunt was fouled.
It's the roll on the field goal, and we're tied at 4, and Anderson coming right back. Hunt has taken Anderson. That's the first assignment in the game. Dennis Scott is the man that Georgia Tech needs to get involved early in this game. They don't want him looking for that field goal late. They drop it into him now. He's going to work on the inside and draw the foul. Brandman's first personal.
This is what has changed Dennis Scott from a player who could be guarded as a freshman when he only wanted to play in the perimeter. Now he takes you inside, and what he wants to do right away, I can see, he said, Augman, I don't think you're strong enough to handle me down on the blocks. So a smart move by Dennis Scott to take Augman inside and pick up the foul. Augman probably does have a quickness advantage out on the perimeter.
In the tournament, Scott had hit 21 of 26 free throws. Overall, an 80% free throw shooter. Just a little strong on that first one.
We saw Todd Day in the first game with a great release on the jumper. You'll see the same thing from Scott. Good double team.
They went to Anthony. They moved through Hunt. Open underneath is Augman, and tapped in by Johnson, the man they're going to have trouble with in this game.
Kenny Anderson got caught on the weak side. Look at that pass.
He found Mackey in low, and he hits the field goal.
Fans, we have not seen a passer like this on the college level in a long, long time.
Coming inside is Augman. Knocked away by Mackey. Now here comes Anderson. Now we got 2-on-2. This time Anthony has him. Off Oliver's hands and out of bounds for the turnover.
Now you see Kenny Anderson looking down the sidelines. How does he see the whole floor? I mean, he knows where everybody is at every second. Great vision. Johnson's got McNeil down low, really using that wide body.
Hunt's second three. Off the glass. Had to call it
No.
horse, right?
No. In a game of horse, that one doesn't count. But in basketball, it goes. That could build Anderson Hunt's confidence, and that would be a real key to the game.
Coming off the dribble, changing hands, Kenny Anderson, the wizard from New York. Now he gets back to the other side of the floor and knocks the ball out of bounds.
Here's what I'm talking about, Brent. That shot was designed to go directly in the basket. So Hunt was off, but he wasn't off.
The player who's been impressive in the early going is Mackey. We all know about Anderson, but he's holding his own against Butler right down there on the low blocks. They get to Augman, though, and they're having a matchup problem with Stacey Augman in low, and it's 11-9 Las Vegas.
And that's Dennis Scott's man, so he is having problems there. Straight man-to-man by UNLV. Georgia Tech will change up.
Oliver, after the gamble fails, misses the shot. And Butler with that familiar yell as he yanks down a rebound. Augman runs the floor beautifully.
Well, we pointed it out last week. There's nobody finishes the fast break like Augman does on the college level.
Now it is Scott misfiring, and foul underneath is going to be on Oliver. One of the things, if Augman's going to get involved low in the offense that much, Scott will be open down here at the other end.
Exactly. What the old term Gussie hanging is exactly what Dennis Scott did on Stacey that time. You want to go down and take two, I'll go the other end and get three.
Now the defensive specialist, Carl Brown, has checked in, and Mackey is conferring over there with Coach Crimmins. And Bobby undoubtedly wants him to switch off on Augman when he gets free down low, and he's changing up. Brown, somewhat small, is a terrific defensive player, and there's a 3-second violation.
Now, Brent, this is the small team for Georgia Tech. Dennis Scott now will play Butler, and this puts Johnny McNeil stays right where he was, and the team will be small. Oliver will have to take Stacey Augman.
13-9. The running Rebs break on top. McNeil the screen. Scott in low, and he traveled. We've got a timeout. 15:54, 13-9, the Rebs. Georgia, the second ACC team to reach the Final Four, and this is the road they traveled to get here. They fell behind LSU early, you might remember. A dramatic overtime and a controversial one against Michigan State. As for UNLV, first they started in Salt Lake. Then they moved down to Oakland, and Ball State had an opportunity to knock them out before they put Loyola Marymount away by 30 points. And wasn't that a marvelous story that was turned in by the young men of Loyola Marymount after the death of their star Hank Gathers, taking it all the way to a regional final before they were outmanned by this running Reb team that now has taken a 13-9 lead on Georgia Tech.
High-low post now. Butler and Johnson trying to work.
Augman rims out. Georgia Tech going hard, had two men. Oliver down in the fourth, quickly back up, and this is Brown.
McNeil with a strong rebound there. Had a season high of 15. Another great
Finds
pass.
Scott down low, and he's going to come up to that free throw line. Butler down on the inside. Gets his first personal.
Brent, as opposed to the first game today, the tempo much slower in this game, which I really think at this point, even though Georgia Tech's behind, is much to their favor. And Arkansas forced tempo, forced Duke to have to go to the bench. So far, UNLV is not doing that. What may be the reason, Jerry Tarkanian may say, I don't want to put too much pressure because Kenny Anderson can beat my best. And if he does, they'll have 3-on-1 breaks. Scott cool so far.
Anthony dueling with Brown as he brings it up now for the Rebs. Getting it into Butler. A collision, and a foul is going to be called on Anthony.
Now that was just a little one-on-one confrontation between Anthony and Brown. Brown was trying to do the same thing to him down the other end. You can see that. Stepped out there, not a wise move by Anthony.
And Anthony is a tough young point guard for the Rebels who suffered a broken jaw and didn't miss a single game.
UNLV goes to their zone defense now. And Dennis Scott will look to find a hole somewhere beyond the zone. Great steal.
Ogman, 3-on-1. They break out. Hunt gives it back to Ogman. And he'll come on up to the free throw line. Score it. And a chance to complete the three-point play for number 32, member of the United States Olympic team. It's lost to the Russians in Seoul, Korea. Now will come to the line.
We'll see the steal here, and so far Oliver has not been sharp. Ogman just steals the ball, and when he goes on the break, everybody on his club knows what a great finisher Stacy is. That time he used the left hand, but can use the right hand as well.
An 8-point UNLV lead in the early going, and 9 by Stacy Ogman, who's doing it at both ends of the floor. He has shut down Scott from the field, and he's contributing offensively. McNeil will have to take the shot.
McNeil has had a very, very fine NCAA tournament, scoring more than we give him credit for. Or Brown will get right up in there on Anthony. Tough defender.
The three. Anthony's first field goal of the game. Each of the Reb starters has hit a field goal here in the early going. It's 21-12, UNLV, showing everyone why they're the power team to be reckoned with. Back comes Scott, and he nails his first three. 5 for the game.
I don't think that 1-3-1 zone and that amoeba zone is going to do much for Scott, because he'll go down outside the extension of the zone and take that three-pointer.
Brown's first personal. Mackey returning. And Moses Scurry, number 35, checking in for the first time for UNLV. Butler will sit down. Johnson.
Beautiful step-in move. So far, Georgia Tech has just not been able to stop them on their defensive end of the floor. Goes Scott again, looking for that corner. Ogman realizes it.
Ogman's so quick with that great reach. Jumps out of that zone on Scott. Now Dennis will run the baseline. Tried to get it inside, and Scurry was in the passing lane, but Scott gets it back. Now he'll come back down on Anthony. Tap back into the hands of Mackey.
Smart play by Dennis Scott.
23-17.
Strictly a game of offense. Neither team figuring out a way to shut down the opponent.
Johnson missing. Scott coming out with the rebound. Gets it into Anderson's hands. Anderson will come right around Anthony. Gives it back to Scott. Well, when you need 2 points in a close game and you got Kenny Anderson bringing it down the floor, you're just about unstoppable if you get numbers in your favor. And it goes over Anthony. And on the inside is where that personal is going to be called. That's Scurry, who gets his first personal. So it was not Anthony. And now Georgia Tech will bring in Darryl Barnes, a 6'8 freshman, and see how he will hold up on the inside as Butler has returned, and Johnson sits down, and Vegas gets back in this zone.
It's the amoeba defense. A little matching up out front. A one-celled animal that changes its shape to destroy the enemy. That's what Buzz Riddle told me was how the amoeba was named. Former great coach at Pittsburgh.
Anderson, daylight, good shooter. It's a 2-point game. Georgia Tech right back as they put up 6 straight points. And Anthony having some problems down here.
Brown is the kind of guy just aggravates you because of his great tenacity on defense.
Now Butler has it knocked away by Scott on the inside, and Barnes wraps it up, and the Ramblin' Wreck can tie it up.
No, don't try to cut off Kenny Anderson with the dribble. You know what he does to people, Brent? They're so used to being able to guard a man one-on-one with the dribble. He demoralizes you when he puts the ball in his hands.
Like you pointed out, Billy, the pace of the game favoring Georgia Tech, even though they're behind. We're coming back. Kenny Anderson played at Archbishop Malloy High School in New York City, and he was named All-City as a freshman, even though he never started a game or played in the first quarter. And he went on to break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, who of course was Lou Alcindor as a schoolboy in New York, and he broke his New York City scoring record. So we're looking at one of the young phenoms. Both teams shooting well, 69% for Tech, 67%. Cianovich, who had checked into the game, has the ball with Anthony, who had struggled early on, out of the game now. And Kenny strips him, and he'll come in for the layup to tie it. Oh, my, here we go.
Well, Stacy Cianovich, son of a coach, would be smart to give up that ball when he's being played by a defender of that caliber.
Yes, sir. Offensive foul on Cianovich. Backcourt problems for the Rebels.
Cianovich is trying to do more than he's capable of at this stage in the game. But with Greg Anthony out of there, Anderson Hunt wanting to break long for the three-point shots. Cianovich is the only primary ball handler.
16 fouls on Vegas. Only 3 on Georgia Tech here in the early going. Scott now wants his 3 from NBA range.
Oh, way beyond. That's a 26-footer.
Now Cianovich under pressure from Brown. Georgia Tech up 3. Anderson back quickly to help out on Cianovich. They're looking for the 5. They don't get it into the hands of Butler.
By pressing, they take the inside game completely away.
Hunt will try it off the penetration. Butler knocked out of bounds by Scott. Vegas ball.
Jerry Tarkanian going to his bench early. Maybe he's saying, hey, this is going to be a long night. I'm going to use this bench, try to wear Georgia Tech down. But what he's not doing is creating the tempo in this game that would force Georgia Tech to have to go to their bench.
UNLV in this tournament, I believe, has never been behind by more than 4 or 5 points. They're down 3, and Anthony comes back in. Cianovich sits down. Anthony will take the ball out of bounds. Augmon Johnson has returned. So the starting 5 for the Rebels back on the floor. And Georgia Tech playing with a little more confidence right now on the floor.
They've got the lob to Butler on a swing. It's a little bit too big on the lob for Dennis Scott.
Johnson, who's taking his game outside, hits a 3-point shot. I thought somebody said he couldn't hit from the perimeter.
Bobby Crimmins giving Anderson a break. Brown, a good ball handler as well.
Got inside a Hunt and hit the layup. 28-26, Georgia Tech.
Brent, those are big baskets when you bring a guy off the bench that is not going to be a scorer and he picks up 2 for you.
And then the turnover, and now Tech ball again with a 2-point lead.
So it looks like Bobby Crimmins is going to go to about an 8-man rotation here. Getting a lot of quality minutes out of Brown.
Bounce to Oliver inside of Anthony, and Butler away with the rebound. Long pass to Johnson.
Count it.
Layup. And he drew the foul from Mackey instead, so he'll come to the free throw line.
Pretty good foul by Mackey because Johnson down in low. He just cannot be contained. So strong. Look at the great hands he has. And not to walk on that play. Came to the good jump stop.
Larry Johnson, the junior college player of the year. Jerry Tarkanian himself was a JC player before he transferred, so he has always used a lot of them, as Barry Young reports into the lineup. Johnson's out of Tyler, Texas. And I want you to take a look at this young man, because he's built a little bit like one Lawrence Taylor. And he was an amateur boxer as a young man for 5 years. And I said, were you any good? And he said, I was a killer.
But we can't find any tapes.
There's no evidence, folks. I just passed that along. I don't know.
Well, I would say this.
If there's any home movies in Tyler, Texas, send it up to our producer, Bob Deacon.
That's right.
Tied at 28 now. 9:44 here in the first half.
Back to the man-to-man, which seems to be a better situation for Jerry Tarkanian's club. Keeps Dennis Scott.
Oliver with a beautiful spinning move for the layup. Now it's Hunt's turn. Tied, and now we're starting to warm to the task. Brown back for Tech. Scott will come outside with a three. 33-30 now, 9-14. Georgia Tech leads it. Butler knocked away beautifully on the inside.
Second time Scott stolen the ball on the way up.
Oliver has it knocked out of bounds by Johnson. Georgia Tech ball. Johnny McNeil back for the Engineers, and both teams shooting well as Kenny Anderson comes back. 74% for Georgia Tech and 71 for UNLV.
Bobby Crimmins establishing his rotation now. Anderson realizes with Scott out, he's got to score more.
I want to stress again the pace of the game favoring Georgia Tech, because at this altitude, you don't want to get into a helter-skelter up and down with a light bench. As the pass was into McNeil, and he traveled. It's going to go over to UNLV. He turned it over.
Good idea by McNeil. However, he thought he had Larry Johnson going up in the air.
Butler.
Excellent step-away shot.
Well, let me ask you, have we got great shooting out here, or can't anybody play any defense?
I think we have great offensive performance here that are tough to guard.
Anderson comes inside and almost got it to fall. Long pass. Brown there with Hunt. The duel on the sideline, won by Hunt. They go to trap him in the corner. They got him 5 up over there.
Yes, sir.
Georgia Tech ball. Great defense. We've got a timeout. 8:10 first half. 33-32. Georgia Tech leads it by 1. With Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger. There are the important numbers. Both teams blazing away. Billy, over there in that corner, when we thought that was a 5-second, there was a timeout call. Let me ask you this. At this point in the game with 8:10 to go, are you better off taking the turnover in that situation or calling the timeout?
Well, it would have been a situation, jump ball situation. It would have been UNLV's ball. And it is an important thing to remember in games like this that we've seen in this tournament. Coaches love to have some timeouts available at the end with so many close games.
The Anonymous 2 have contributed 8.
And Bobby Crimmins goes back with his initial starting lineup. Still playing man-to-man.
Johnson wants it on the inside. McNeil leaning on him, doing a good job now as he comes free. They forced Johnson to the outside much of the game. Anthony, nice play.
Sensational play.
With the Rebs up by a point.
Anthony's kind of relegated himself to a different role than he anticipated playing when he came to UNLV, but he can score.
Mackey wants it down on the inside of this zone. Anderson comes inside. They closed in on him, and he just put it on the floor and burned him.
And Brent, he was looking to pass on that play and just stood up there and said, okay, you're going to let me have the shot, I'll take it.
Butler off the fake. McNeil rebounding, and here's Anderson again. He can see the whole floor. You know, the great ones like Wayne Gretzky and every other athlete, They just seem to see things that mere mortals don't. Oliver drawing the foul from Butler, and that is the second now on Butler.
The other thing I think is interesting about these three great scorers that Georgia Tech has, they don't force the play. They let the scoring come to them. Only one team has held all three below 20 in the same game. That was Virginia in the ACC championship that they played, but they're very patient with their offense.
17 fouls now on UNLV, so Georgia Tech shooting the 1-and-1 the rest of the way, and Ramblin' Wreck with a couple of fouls to give here.
And Brian Oliver, a player who had never played in a winning game in the ACC tournament, this year ends up the MVP in the tournament. You say, Brent, about 212, 215 pounds, rock solid.
They go to some pressure, and they get it into Hunt's hands. Jump shot won't roll, and Ogman taps it back in. 11 points for Stacey Ogman in the first half. Wanted Mackey, and the pass was too high and out of bounds. It'll go to the Rebs on the turnover.
One of the few times you see Kenny Anderson, though, pick up his dribble and allow himself to be in the double team. It's not infallible.
Leaning in, offensive foul.
We're not giving McNeil enough credit for his low post defense. Even though Larry Johnson scored some points, McNeil's holding his own.
Perhaps they didn't expect this.
Well, and here again we see UNLV not pressing this Georgia Tech team because of the respect they have in their ball handling. Dennis Scott wanting one, but he's on the side here with Ogman. He's not going to get his jumper on this side.
Oliver spins inside. Into McNeil's hands.
And that's where that 215 pounds of Oliver helped out, because he shocked the pack, knocked the ball loose.
Georgia Tech builds a three-point lead. Johnson loose on the inside, makes it one.
He's showing us some things in this game that we haven't seen out of him so far this year.
Inside to Mackey. Now from the perimeter, it'll be Anderson. The three. On the money for Kenny Anderson. 11 points in the first half.
A well-coached team. You notice how they made the clock was used up some as they surrounded that zone.
Hunt's three is on the money. Beautiful pass to Scott, and he drew the foul. He'll come to the line again.
And Jerry Tarkanian screaming to his team, get back. But you see, it's so tough. You're running back court. Anderson's coming up your back, and he makes those passes that you just don't see in a normal college game.
And he goes back to that bench. He'll try James Jones for a while.
Four's our shooter, big fella.
Bobby Crimmins over there with Oliver.
And Brent, you know, with so much publicity that goes in the game, with UNLV being a favorite by a lot of people, including myself, as a matter of fact, I think that they're stunned a little bit with the quality of their opponent.
Billy, is it fair to say they're not as focused as they were against Loyola Marymount in that regional final?
Without question. I think they were a little bit nervous going into that game, saying, hey, maybe we can't stop this team. They have come out today, and they don't have that same intensity level.
And continuing to play into Georgia Tech's hands. Not a real deep team over there, but getting the most out of everybody. 44-41, Tech with a lead inside of 5 minutes here first half. Hunt will come back with a three. Long rebound into McNeil's hands. And Anderson runs the floor. Now it's Scott. He'll take it out there. Is he phenomenal outside or what?
Well, see, he's out beyond where the normal college defense plays, so Stacey Ogman just couldn't get to him.
That's his fourth three-pointer of this Final Four game. No shot. And Scott committing his first personal.
Well, to put things in perspective as to what Dennis Scott has done, he has become the all-time single-season scoring leader in ACC history, taking away a record that stood all the way back since 1962, when one of my old teammates, Lenny Chappell, set it. So it's a special player on the offensive end.
UNLV will now try Travis Bice. He missed practice yesterday. He's been ailing with a bit of the flu, and Anderson Hunt sits down. 3-point shooting combined, 9 of 14, 5 of 8 for Georgia Tech in this game. So both teams have been hot from the outside. Bice too has range, but Georgia Tech has built a 6-point lead here.
Now McNeil going out on Johnson a little higher.
Johnson to the inside, drew the foul, and he'll come up to the line. And now some words are being exchanged between Johnson and McNeil, and quickly Paparo steps into the middle of that huddle, and there's a 6-man huddle for you. They get Dickey in there, and he gives him the word.
But what Johnson has been doing has been taking McNeil outside, but because McNeil may be better than anybody we've seen play Johnson in the low post, is holding his ground there. He was voted in 1989 as USA Basketball's Athlete of the Year. Now that's some tribute to a fellow who had not even ever played one Division I game at that point.
Just buzzing around in circles. 47-43, 4:18 first half. And Oliver bangs down 2 more. The shooting has been phenomenal here in the first half of this Final Four game.
When Jerry Tarkanian goes to halftime, I guarantee he's going to talk about getting back on defense and turning your head, not losing sight of the ball.
Brown commits the personal, and Anthony will come up to the free throw line. Very interesting that the ACC has defeated all the #1 seeds, and that's the 3, and of course UNLV would make it the clean sweep. Is Connecticut, Michigan State, and Oklahoma. And there are the young men who will take the floor Monday night to play the winner of this game for the championship. The Duke Blue Devils, who prevailed over Arkansas in game 1.
And if there's the most courageous player this year, there's Lindsey Howell sitting there. Has played his last game as a collegian. Then when you talk about Greg Anthony, didn't miss a game despite that broken jaw. Showed great leadership, coming right back at practice. Wants a clear out. He wants part of Brown. Good hedge move that time by Scott.
Now the officials have let him play a little bit more in this game, down on the inside blocks. That's a different kind of officiated game, and so McNeil's able to lean on Johnson down in there. Bice trying to get Butler involved. Anderson reaches behind to get it to Butler on the turnaround. That's his shot.
David Butler was the nation's best junior college player 2 years ago, and that little fadeaway jumper is working very well for him. He's actually having more success in the low post than was Larry Johnson.
Scott, short that time. Augman off with the rebound. Georgia Tech back on defense in a hurry, not giving them easy baskets. Butler again to turn around, and Scott is fouled. That was Augman coming through, and that's his second personal here of the half. They've been over the limit for some time. Mackey and Johnson will return soon.
Both coaches substituting much different than we saw in the first game. And Brent, I think the reason for that, the first game was so physical, a lot of body contact, everybody checking on every foul. On every shot that went up on the boards. And those teams wore down much more than these teams are.
Let's check in on Lethal Weapon. What percentage of the 80%? 18, 10, and 11. But let's not overlook the rest of this team. Billy, you told me that McNeil was a pretty good player, and he's been impressive here in the first half defensively.
And so has Brown. Only has 2 points, but he's been doing the job, making Greg Anthony really work.
51-46, 2:54. Georgia Tech stands up and said, don't count us out too quickly, folks, so we'll be right back. Meanwhile, back at Duke University, they have lined up awaiting tickets for next year's North Carolina game. The celebration is underway. 97-83. Duke advances to Monday night's title game, and there are some of their heroes. And here, a surprise, 51-46. This is the first time that UNLV has trailed by as many as 5 points in the entire NCAA tournament. Hunt, Anthony, and Augmon with a knee wrap. He took a bump to the knee, and that left knee now has a different wrap on it than when he started the game, and he's had some difficulty with his mobility in the last couple of minutes.
There's Scott playing Johnson down low, and they just don't get him the ball.
Mackey leaning away on Butler, and again they don't ship it on the inside. Now they get to him, and they play catch with Anthony. They need that shot to loosen things up, and they're not getting it. Anderson flips, and Oliver does get the handle, comes up, and Butler wraps it away out of bounds. Georgia Tech ball. Oh, another pass. You got to be aware all the time. There's the knee, the left knee. Stacey Augmon.
Brett, the only person I've seen make the two-handed chest pass from as long a distance as accurately as Anderson does is Magic Johnson. That ball was thrown a good 35 feet right on the money.
And now it goes over to Vegas. Johnson will have the ball out of bounds. They trail it by 5, 2 minutes in the first half.
Again, watch Dennis Scott and Johnson down in the low post. Scott trying to use that upper leg to hold him off.
Into Johnson, who muscles his way in, is short that time. Anderson comes out now. UNLV back defensively. Kenny will pull it out and nail it himself. That's 13. 20 for Scott, 10 for Oliver. And he's also thrown 5 assists.
Good double down by Brown on Johnson.
Augmon gets it to Butler, and it's knocked away again.
Third time Scott has stolen the ball on the jump shot.
Off Augmon's hands.
Now, Larry Johnson and Dennis Scott did not cross half court that time. They stayed back. I think they're starting to feel it. The minute and 18 to go till halftime, and neither coach wants to take the race out.
But the officials ruled it was not off Augmon's hands. So it goes over to UNLV at 1:15. 53-46.
Straight man-to-man, but dropping way back inside.
Not there, and Scott with the rebound.
Anderson, Hunt, and Greg Anthony are going to have to prove they can make some jump shots. They're back to the amoeba defense now. I think Jerry Tarkanian, Brent, has shown too much respect for Kenny Anderson, and they did not go out and press Georgia Tech, and therefore they didn't wear him down in this first half.
Very well rested.
Yes, sir. Dennis Scott within shooting range. Half court.
About 60
against the Duke students. He took the ball out to half court and said, I can make one here in practice, and drilled it.
One thing they could try in the second half is put Augmon on Anderson for a while. See what he could do with him. He's inside with time running out. Pulled away by Augmon. 12 seconds. 53-46. UNLV behind. Hunt fires up a 3.
Had plenty of time to get a better shot than that, but you can see Larry Johnson now exhausted, as is Butler. Both just grasping for air.
Billy, do you find UNLV playing a little out of desperation here?
I really do. I think that this game has shocked them a little bit. You can see Larry Johnson just bending over, trying to grab his breath.
Misfiring, and that's the first half. Everything going Georgia Tech's way. 13 for Kenny Anderson. 20 for Dennis Scott. And 10 for Brian Oliver, Lethal Weapon 3. We're coming up with Jim Nance after this message and a word from your local station.
Dennis Scott with 20 points. Tech was down 9 early, but came firing back. 67% shooting from the floor in the first half. Speaking of being on fire, back in Durham at Duke University, they're building a bonfire, still celebrating the Blue Devils' victory earlier today here in Denver. 97-83. The Blue Devils Monday night will play for the national championship. Mike Francesa and I are pleased to be joined now by Mike Krzyzewski here at halftime. And Mike, you just mentioned to us how satisfying it is to get this team all the way to the championship game when no one expected to get that far.
Well, it's great because our team, a lot of people thought we were going to be in a rebuilding year, and then we got so much success that people thought we were better than what we were, and then they got down on us a little bit, and then in March our team's been very good.
Coach, let's take a look at some of the highlights from that victory against Arkansas. You led 46-43 at the half and then scored the first 8 points of the second half. Here's one of the buckets. Bricky on the tip from Leitner and the slam, and you led by 11. An 11-point lead in the second half. And frustrations for Nolan Richardson turned around quickly because the Razorbacks got razor sharp. Mayberry on the steal and slam, and Arkansas led by 7, 69-62. But the rest of the way, Duke outscored them 35-14. Brilliant spin move by Henderson. He was also fouled, and they're celebrating at Duke. You did it down the stretch again, Coach. This is a team, we've seen it in the tournament. You did it against St. John's down the stretch. UCLA, Connecticut, you came from behind in the overtime. What do you guys do in the last 5 minutes? Today it was 19-4 last 5.
They make me nervous. That's the first thing they do. We've been in so many really tough games in our conference that it's really helped us. And I think that our bench helps us also. We have a little bit more depth.
You know, you've been so reliant on your freshman point guard, who's a terrific kid, a tough kid, Bobby Hurley. Tough day for him today. Had to leave the court in the first half. Second half looked to be laboring a little bit. Did you have to say anything to him?
Well, Mike, he was really in trouble because he had diarrhea, and he was really sick. And I just told him, I said, take your rest on offense. Let Phil help you a little bit, bring it down, and play as long as you can. And he's just a courageous kid. The other thing I thought that was pretty good for our team is down the stretch, our defense was good. We had pretty good defense.
And when you talk about it, Duke, execution, experience down the stretch, great game by Henderson down the stretch today. 3
big three-point plays. The one that we just saw on the move, then he hits the three-point shot to put us up 73-71, and then he hit that one that seemed like it took about 5 seconds to take. And when he hit that, I thought we had a great chance to win.
Coach, I know you faced Tech 3 times this year. You beat them twice, but your thoughts on the first half here between UNLV and Georgia Tech?
Well, I just got a chance to see the last 8 minutes, and it looked like Tech had the tempo. They have the poise. Anderson's playing great, and then Scott's been unbelievable. I don't know how many points he had in the first half, but 20, and it just seems like every time he shoots, it's going in.
All right, Coach. Congratulations. We'll see you Monday night playing for the national championship. And we'll continue back here at McNichols Arena in Denver in just a moment. Lethal Weapon 3, 43 of the 53 Tech points. And Dennis Scott's 20, well, he's 4 out of 6 from three-point land. 7-point lead for Georgia Tech. And right now, let's take you down inside by the locker rooms and join my colleague right now, James Brown. He's outside the Tech locker room. JB.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. I think the headline for this halftime report is one of confidence. Georgia Tech felt that there was no way UNLV could apply any more defensive pressure than they've seen in 3 outings this year against Duke. Also, the Tech coaching staff said an offensive wrinkle that worked well was starting Dennis Scott on the inside. Once he warmed up there, he was absolutely on fire on the outside. Great defense overall, and the Tech players went into the locker room at halftime saying, hey, UNLV is all hype. We're in control. Now let's go over to Leslie Visser.
JB, I spoke with UNLV assistant Tim Gergerich, and he said pretty much what Billy Packer said, that they have to get back on defense. The transition defense is just not working. They're also disappointed with the ball movement in the last 5 minutes of the first half. As for stopping the wondrous Kenny Anderson, he said, look, we know he's terrific. We're going to have to put more pressure on him, indeed on all the lethal weapon. As for those concerned about Stacey Augmon, he merely banged his knee, and they've wrapped it up. They said he'll be fine. Over to you, Jim.
All right, Leslie, you mentioned Kenny Anderson, 13 points, 5 assists here at halftime, and Tech leads it by 7 over UNLV. Will it be an all-ACC final on Monday night? We'll find out when we come back for the second half here on CBS after this message and a word from your local station.
7 points here at the half as Lethal Weapon 3 leading Georgia Tech to a 53-46 lead. And now, Billy, the question is about Jerry Tarkanian and his coaching staff. What can they try to do here in the second half?
Well, Brent, I think they showed too much respect. It's like a boxer that's afraid to get hit. You've got to get hit some to force the tempo in this game. And I think he's got to go out and pressure Georgia Tech, try to get the game a little bit more like Arkansas did against Duke.
Now, Georgia Tech is on a record field goal percentage pace for this game. They are hitting 67%. 63 is the highest ever hit in a semifinal game. Off the fast break, led by the incomparable Kenny Anderson, 18 points. And in that backcourt, Georgia Tech with 25 points, UNLV with 16. Now to keep you up to date on Lethal Weapon 3, 81%, all but 10 of their points so far in this game. And the leading scorers, Scott for Georgia Tech and Larry Johnson with 13 points for UNLV. But UNLV has to show some better defense here in the second half, or they're going to be watching an all-ACC final on Monday night. And here we go. It's Anthony, Johnson, Ogman, Butler, and Hunt on the attack. UNLV in the white.
Good double downs by Georgia Tech, which is forcing Anderson Hunt to shoot from the outside, and he's not taking it.
Ogman, that time, both Anthony and Hunt passed up the outside shots. Now Hunt got his hand on the ball, forced the turnover. Here comes Ogman in on the inside. Missed it, yanked back away by the freshman Mackey.
Good job by Mackey to stay still. Made Ogman commit.
Scott with the ball, punches into the freshman. Vegas forces another turnover. Georgia Tech without a shot here in the second half. Now Hunt gets on the inside. Mackey with the ball, so UNLV had a couple of scoring chances, and they could not cash in on them. Oliver to McNeil.
Unusual to take with nobody under the rebound. If you're Bobby Crimmins, you don't want that shot early on in the second half.
It's loaded Johnson. And it's an offensive foul call. That's his second personal.
You know, maybe the most valuable player so far, despite the fact that the trio is having a great game, is McNeil. Because he's playing and stopping Larry Johnson in the low post. Second time today he drew the charge. Good rule on verticality there by the officials. Nice call.
Jerry looked more like Lawrence of Arabia that time than he did a man looking for a towel snack, didn't he? Here's Anderson now.
Remember in the Loyola Marymount game, that towel never was used. He was always had great breathing room.
Yeah, they were up 20 at the half.
That's right.
Won it by 30. Won it breezy. Anderson off this time. UNLV ball, 53-48 now. Anthony bringing it back down.
Great hedge move on defense that last time by Larry Johnson.
Butler wants it in low. They pass him up. Ogman with his regular knee wrap. That other one they put on is now off. The three from Anthony is on the money. 53-51. UNLV climbs back in a hurry. Anderson comes the distance. They put him on the free throw line.
Brent, if you're going to play against Kenny Anderson, you cannot afford to turn your head and not see the ball at all times. That's what's happening to UNLV. When they run back down the court, they don't get their eye on the ball, and he just penetrates right on by him, either with the dribble or the pass.
Moses Scurry into the game, and Johnson sits back down. Butler on the floor with 3 personal fouls right now, and Anderson stepping to the line.
And what this does, it puts a lot of pressure on Hunt to have to make some jump shots, because Scurry, you go from a great scorer down to a non-scorer. Fans thought that maybe Greg Anthony had fallen with the ball on the floor, but that wasn't the case.
Scurry steps out high. Anthony. Good rebound by Oliver as he comes out. Spins past Anthony, who comes from the rear and can't catch him.
Great play by Stacey Augmon. Sensational defense.
And it goes against Mackey, his second personal foul, as you take another look.
Stacey got a piece of that ball because Oliver is a very good finisher himself on the break. Georgia Tech a little out of sync here in the second half, but Dennis Scott has not touched the ball. And I think the next time down the floor, Bobby Crimmon's going to make sure that Dennis handles it and gets some kind of shot off.
Anthony bringing it up now for UNLV. They're down by 3.
This is a good defensive team on the floor now for Georgia Tech as far as matchup.
Deep to Butler.
Take it out right here.
McNeil trying to deny him the ball, commits his second personal. Tarkanian's strategy is pretty obvious. Try to pound the ball in a little bit lower than they did in the first half. Get away from some of that outside perimeter shooting game.
I think if you're playing Butler at this time, you should play behind him, let him touch the ball, then double down on him, just like they did there.
Drew the foul, and he'll come up to that free throw line. Tarkanian starting to pace. He is not sitting back and relaxing and enjoying this one. This is not the kind of dogfight that the Runnin' Rebs expected here this afternoon.
First team all-conference in the Big West. Last year was the leading scorer and rebounding for UNLV.
He'd hit 10 of 17 in the tournament.
Brent has already had one national crown to his credit. San Jacinto from the National Junior College Championship.
Now Anderson into the paint. Hunt off with the missed shot. They run him into an Augmon screen, but he comes back, knocks the ball into Scurry's hands. An opportunity basket for the Runnin' Rebs. They have outscored Georgia Tech 7-1 this half. They are back now to within 1 point.
Well, if you're Georgia Tech here, you want to make sure that Dennis Scott touches the ball. He has not been involved offensively the entire second half.
Augmon sticking with Scott. Down on the low blocks. Denying him the ball. Coming out now with Scott to the top. They're going to run on a screen, and Augmon on a switch, and Anderson comes the distance.
Great
Off
defense.
The miss, it's Scurry.
Great defensive set that time. Augmon has got Scott. He's not open.
He's got the 3, and UNLV moves to the lead. Timeout, Bobby Crimmins and Georgia Tech. Here's second national semifinal, 16-19 to go, 56-54. UNLV back in the lead. They've outscored Georgia Tech 10-1 this half. Georgia Tech held only 1 field goal over the last 7:50 of this game, going back to the first half.
Augmon playing Scott head-to-head out here.
All over him now, denying him the ball. They cannot find their ace. So Anderson will take it himself, and Augmon reached in on him. He's doing it everybody defensively. Loose, picked up by Johnson. That passes into the hands of Brown.
He should get it back out.
Now they find Scott on the perimeter, and he misses. Johnson with a rebound is fouled by Oliver.
Brent, what I think Georgia Tech is going to have to do now that Vegas has picked it up defensively, they're going to have to set solid screens for Dennis Scott to force the switch so that they can get Augmon off him to get him started. That was his first shot in the first 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the second half, of which he has no points after scoring 20 in the first half.
Now for the first time, that haunting cry of rebels, rebels. You could probably hear it all the way to the casinos in Las Vegas. Johnson's on the low block. McNeil rebounding. Oliver coming in. He'll come up and shoot a pair, and it would have been good had it gone.
You know, when you watch Kenny Anderson's eyes as he's dribbling up the court, he's like a surgeon. You know, he's looking, where do I put the scalpel? You know, dissecting the floor and ready to make that move. The key now is how do you free up Dennis Scott? augmentation, did we say at the top of the show? That's what he's seeing.
(56-55), a 1-point Rebel lead. 15-12 to go. Johnson again. This time they go to Anthony. Off the penetration. Yanked down strongly by Oliver.
Some rebound for a guard.
Tech 0 of 7 from the floor. Trying to get something going. Mackey finds Anderson working the baseline. He'll hit Scott. And it's going to go over. The foul is against Georgia Tech.
Now how about Stacey Augmon? You talk about the nation's #1 defender. He's guarding Scott, but that's the second time in the last 3 sequences down floor that he has been the man to come over and help out. That time drawing the charge.
The answer to Lethal Weapon 3 is a man by the name of Stacey Augmon. Anderson with 3 personal fouls now for Georgia Tech.
Butler can shoot the jumper from there.
Back to Hunt. Strong rebound by Johnson, who has it knocked away by Scott again, but into Butler's hands. And it'll be Augmon going after it. Again. And this time, Mackey wraps it up. And Oliver on the offense, it'll count.
Brent, a lot of teams have 2 players of this magnitude offensively, but none have we seen in a long time in college basketball that have 3. And here's what's so tough. This time it's Oliver. He made the power rebound on the other end of the floor, takes that body inside against Larry Johnson and fends him off for the layup.
Johnson with 3, Butler with 3. With Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger. 57-56, 13:59 to go, and Georgia Tech was ahead until Stacey Augmon took it outside, and now he's scored 16. He's the high man for the Rebs, and he has taken charge at both ends. Oliver, short. Augmon with a rebound. Seems like every 5 seconds, Billy,
he's everywhere.
His name.
He's everywhere.
Butler.
Jump shot.
The low block starting to wear down Georgia Tech. 61-57.
Brent, what I think's wearing them down is the fact that they can't get their ace open to shoot because Stacey Augmon's just got him blanketed.
Away from the ball. And now
that was a call.
Augmon and Scott with a couple of words there on the inside.
Stacey does use some smart play with grabbing a guy around the waist and holding Dennis Scott, but Dennis Scott has not been moving. He's accepted the defensive pressure.
Moses Scurry replacing Johnson and McNeil back in. Augmon now joining Johnson and Butler, all 3 playing with 3 fouls here, Billy.
And Kenny Anderson starting to bend over and grab those shorts, a sign of fatigue that we see so often on the college level. Good switch by Moses Scurry.
Scott just cannot get his game going here in this half. Augmon denying him the ball. Now he gets it, backs in, muscle, goes in and travels.
Great defense again. They've got him frustrated. And Brent, the only way they're going to get Dennis Scott open is to set screens for him. He's not going to be able to post up down low. And you notice that Vegas has gone strictly man-to-man the second half. He got going when they went zone in the first half. Anthony. over the back.
Both Scurry and Butler going up, and it's going to be Butler who's going to be assessed his 4th personal, a big call in this game at the 12:30 mark.
Little sidebar officiating right there. One official said, "I've got the call." The other one jumping in on him, and little teamwork.
So Butler with 8 points and 8 rebounds will sit down, and Johnson with 3 personals. And remember, Augmon has 3, so foul trouble starting to mount up on the Rebs. 61-57, UNLV leading it by 4.
Augmon just fights his way through Mackey's screen.
The defense has held Tech to 1 of 9 from the field this half. Goes against the Rebs. That's 4 on Scurry, Billy.
When you start talking about percentage that the starters score, Georgia Tech's starters scored 96% of the offense in the tournament. UNLV way down to 76%. So you can see how important it is for Bobby Crimmins to figure out a way to get Dennis Scott moving here. He just doesn't have points coming off that bench.
17 fouls against Las Vegas this half, 5 on Georgia Tech. Scurry.
Augmon for the lob.
Intercepted on a short pass and then knocked away from McNeil on the floor. The scramble. Scott wins it, but into Anthony's hands. Hunt's open.
Boy, Moses Scurry is banging in there.
Now it's Johnson's turn. Knocked away again. This time it is Oliver in the middle. Anthony. And it's what a play defensively. 2 on 1. Johnson misses. And Scurry is wrapped up and fouled by Anderson. And that is number 4 on the freshman point guard.
Brent, we are seeing one of the great defensive stands by an individual player. Stacey Augmon just doing a sensational job. Last year's Defensive Player of the Year in the nation. And what a half he is playing now. The shot goes in. He makes the steal, gets the ball back, and starts the break.
Timeout, 11:38. With the lights on, honoring our Final Four, and already Duke has eliminated Arkansas and advanced to Monday night's championship game. How about Lethal Weapon 3? Rather quiet. 43 in the first half, and this half only 4 as UNLV comes to play a little defense here in the second 20 minutes.
Jerry Tarkanian has junked the zone defense and really sticking them, showing no more respect like he did in that first half.
On the inside, the block back into Johnson's hands, and he hits it. 15 for the game now. And it's 63-57. Billy, is this one getting away as Brown has come in to run the offense for Georgia Tech?
Well, without Kenny Anderson in the game, obviously they have nobody to initiate the offense. That's not Oliver's role. They go back to the zone now with Kenny Anderson out of the game. Scott trying to find himself a spot to take a 3. He's over there with Scurry. Here it goes.
There's his 3, and starts to light it up here.
Well, I don't know why Jerry Tarkanian would have gotten out of the man-to-man. It was so effective, particularly with Kenny Anderson out of the game.
He may be resting.
Could be.
He may be sitting back and gambling here, but in the meantime, it's down to a 3-point lead. Now it's Johnson on the low blocks, missing. Mackey wraps it up. And if they can find Scott again, he can tie it. He's open over there on that wing. He wants it.
He did. He wanted to bounce pass through the defenders. And probably a good choice by Brown.
By the time they got it to him, Scurry had stepped up.
Yep.
Now he's going to go through. And Brown finds himself open, and so he hits it. And it's a 1-point game.
Valuable game by Brown off the bench. Here's a finisher.
Augmon.
I'll throw one out at you. How would you like to have Augmon finishing and Kenny Anderson starting the break? Is that some? Now that's a lethal weapon.
Johnson, and Johnson fouled him. That's number 4.
And here's a good hit ahead by Greg Anthony. Stacey Augmon, who just looks over the defense and then takes that one rammed home. MVP of the Western Regional, certainly deserved it, and he's working on an MVP performance here.
UNLV now with major foul problems on the inside. Johnson, Butler, and Scurry, 4 apiece. Augmon with 3. Kenny Anderson out with 4. So for the time being, it'll be Augmon, Scurry, and Butler, with Johnson sitting down here at the 9:42 mark. So the Rebs are in foul trouble. Vegas lead.
They'll look to Butler inside.
Anthony puts it down. Earns his way up to that free throw line.
He's a fearless competitor.
3 on Mackey.
Started out at Portland as a freshman. The WCAC was the freshman of the year in that league, and then transferred back to his hometown, where as a high school player he led his high school team to the state championship. So Greg Anthony knows how to win. And without Kenny Anderson in the game, it'd be interesting to see if UNLV would try to press here. Not a bad idea.
.9:23 left in regulation.
Back to man-to-man. They didn't stay in the zone long.
McNeil's at the top. Butler. Augmon on the wing, comes back out top. Hunt. Anthony bounces it into Scurry. Gets the roll. Now Brown quickly to the attack, and here's Oliver. Goaltending, put it down. That time Augmon was a little bit too good defensively. 17 for Oliver.
He glided all the way across the lane. You can see him coming out of the side of your picture to get a piece of that. I thought it was a good block. Matter of fact, sensational block. I think it might have surprised the official. You can pin the ball on the board in the college game. I think it was sensational block. Yes, sir.
69-66, UNLV, 8:30. Augmon. Magnificent performance. 20 points. Great job defensively on Dennis Scott. Doing it all here. 8-11. Now Scott, the 3. He has to do a great job defensively to keep him under control. Augmon trying to break free, and with his reach, knocked it out of bounds. Georgia Tech ball. They can tie it this trip.
Give a little applause that time for Dennis Scott. Hit the 3, realized Stacey Augmon took off to go in the other direction, and hustled back down court on defense.
Scott now has hit 6 3-pointers in this game. They would have counted if the Denver Nuggets had been playing here at McNichols.
No way, no way.
Missing that time into the hands of Scurry.
Not a good shot.
Hard to say that about Dennis Scott, though, but I know what you mean.
Stacey looking to drive again. He's gaining confidence on the offensive end.
Anthony, the 3. 74-69, 7:25 in regulation. Anthony with 3 3-pointers.
And I think it's time for Kenny Anderson to get back into this ball game. If you're Bobby Crimmins, you can't hold him much longer.
Scurry rebounds the miss. Anthony has Butler.
Time for the timeout, and Kenny Anderson in the lineup.
The Running Rebs take charge in Denver, but there's a lot of time left. The power of UNLV at work. Expressions tell it all. 3 timeouts apiece now, and the Wizard is back. Kenny Anderson, who has struggled a little bit here in the second half with 4 personals on the floor. Georgia Tech down 76-69, and Tech has been held to 31% this half. Entirely different than the first half, and Johnson has just picked up number 5, and that could start to turn this around.
Time to put some moisture on that towel, Jerry Tarkanian, because now that inside game changes a lot. And although he's got Moses Scurry to put in, who my old buddy Al McGuire said makes it the best front line in college basketball, Scurry hasn't let him down so far today. Happened to be at the right place at the right time, and that errant pass, remember earlier on, Brent and a half, that really got UNLV on the roll. First team All-American goes out. MVP of their tournament and regular season in the Big West.
There has been some speculation. Johnson said that he will return, but next year he will find himself in the NBA. It's just the ISM. Larry, tell me, is the door closed? What do you feel? I always want to come to the Final Four. Here, really want to come out and but he does not intend to go to the NBA. That's professional. 6:50 to go now. 76-70. UNLV leading it by 6.
Brown still hustling out there. He's showing more stamina than any player in the court today in either game.
Oliver giving Augman some room. Hunt trying to get Scurry back down on the inside. He'll punch into Butler. Off his hands on the turnover. It's Anderson bringing it back. Oh, what a pass. He's something.
It's about the only way to throw that ball is a soft bounce pass, and he put it right on the money.
Making it a 4-point game, and Brown fouls Anthony. His 3rd personal foul.
Brent, another thing that Larry Johnson going out does, it only allows Vegas to have 1 threat down on the inside, so Bobby Crimmins can go with his smaller lineup. Brown, Anderson, and Oliver and Scott to surround, and makes for tough matchups for UNLV. We're at the 6-minute mark. I'll go back to that first game. Here's where Denny Crum told me in the great Houston-Louisville game where he had the big lead, his players just wore out at altitude at Albuquerque.
Here's Scott. Augman had rotated off of him to the inside, and he could not get that one to stay. And Scurry powerfully down on the turnover. Anderson will bring it back. Spinner. He's got it.
Fun to watch.
Put it down. It's a 2-point game now. 5:21. Here's Hunt. The 3. Bingo. 79-74 now. 5:14 regulation.
Go back to the top of the show. We talked about the hunter and the hunted. And you can't fault the backcourt from Vegas today in regard to what they've done offensively.
Oliver penetrates beautifully. Wouldn't stay down. Scurry. With Johnson in foul trouble. It's been Scurry off the bench. 8 rebounds now. Anthony pounded it inside. All got away with the travel, and then I think he hurt his knee. Here is Hunt coming up with a jump shot. Tap back by Butler. Anderson leading the way, and Augmon is there. Augmon stuck with him, and he shifted. And there's a foul on Hunt. That's the first personal foul on Anderson Hunt. That was an interesting duel when Anderson brought it down and was face-to-face with Stacey Augmon.
Great picture there. Stacey Augmon went over to Kenny Anderson. I think great mutual admiration between those two young men, saying, hey, you're some defender. And I think that you see Stacey going out and probably a compliment, and you're some ball player yourself. This fella right here has been the story of the game.
Scott scored 20 points in the first half, and Augmon held him to 6 so far in this half. 4:38 to go. 79-74. Not even
he got pushed.
Free throws. It was like the invisible hand of Stacey Augmon defending Scott at the free throw line.
You know, if I was Dennis Scott, I would have followed Stacey Augmon all the way over to the bench and say, are you sure you're going out of the game? Because I want to get something going, son. Sit here a while.
Young is checked back in, number 33, Barry Young, for UNLV.
What's the elevation in Leicester, England? Because Brown doesn't seem to be getting tired at all.
He was a soccer player.
Oh, is that
was his athletic background.
That's going.
The three again for Anderson Hunt. Number 5. It's 82-74 at the 4-minute mark, and Anderson trying to get something going, and Hunt did a good job there that time. Oliver, beautiful inside move. Timeout is called by Crimmins. 3:55. It's a 6-point lead by Jerry Tarkanian and the Runnin' Reds. Brent Musburger with Billy Packer. Welcome back to McNichols Arena, Denver, Colorado. UNLV, which trailed at the half, now leads Georgia Tech 82-76. Tech with a couple of timeouts, UNLV with 3, the possession error in case the ball is held up, and that ball will be awarded to Georgia Tech. Fouls, a big problem in both games. Already Larry Johnson's out for the Runnin' Rebs. Butler and Scurry 4 apiece, and Anderson with 4 for Georgia Tech. Now, Billy, the clock says 3:55 to play. But those of us who grew up around the Big Ten know that whenever Georgia Tech plays, there's at least 3:56, 3:57.
Just
kidding, folks, down in Atlanta. Just kidding. Anthony brings it back down now, and they'll set the table here. It's 82-76. Hunt gets on the inside, and the foul is going to be called against Brown, who's on the floor. He thought he took the charge that time. That's his 4th personal.
Well, Brent, he just didn't get there in time. Excellent screening by Moses Scurry. You can see Carl Brown has played a tremendous game off the bench today. He's going to move these feet, but he just doesn't get there in time. Wasn't planted.
Hunt chips in 19 points and 6 assists. And remember last Sunday in the regional final against Loyola Marymount, he scored 30. Do you notice that black mourning band on the Vegas uniforms? You saw it when he shot. You'll see it again as he gets ready here to shoot the second one. That is in honor of the late Hank Gathers, the great Loyola Marymount star who passed away so tragically back on March 4th and was a friend of many of the players around the country. Tech off with the missed free throw. 3:30 to go now, 83-76.
Got to be thinking threes. Augmon just won't let Scott touch it. And yet they're still not setting any screens for Scott to get Augmon away from him. So there's a screen for Oliver to get him free, but they're not doing it for Scott.
Scott has to try and get his own rebound. Brown digs it out. He comes inside with a driving layup, and Augmon was there again defensively, and it's UNLV ball.
Bobby Crimmon's going to try to put some press on. By doing that, obviously there's going to be a point of fatigue for his club, and then your shooting range really falls down.
Did you ever see a picture quite like Jerry Tarkanian? Sitting over there, holding his head, that passing out look at his. Scott has been held by Augmon to 2 of 5, Billy, this half.
And we're talking about straight man-to-man, too. It hasn't been double teaming and help him. He just took him on as a challenge. UNLV using some clock now.
Touch pass to Scurry. No foul, no blood, I guess. Not called that time. 85-76. 2:30.
Now there's an opportunity. See, you set the screen, you can free him up.
Which they did, and Scott buries the three, and that's his 7th of the game. 29 points, despite this subpar for him anyway. Second half. 85-79, but they're still dangerous with shooters like that at 210, and Johnson having fouled out of the game.
Anderson Hunt making some very good decisions, not penetrating too far.
Now it's Butler. Swing to Scurry, and he hammered it too hard. Laid it off the glass. Ogman watching. Scott puts it down on him, gets on the inside, and misses the runner. Scurry with the rebound. So Ogman overplaying him, and Scott put the dribble to him. Now inside of a minute and a half left in regulation. 6-point game. Just 2 Scott threes. But first they've got to get the ball back from the refs. He lost the dribble and tapped it to Hunt. (1:13.17 seconds on that shot clock. They're going to have to put somebody on this line now pretty soon. Ogman. His foul by Scott, and Ogman goes down hard.
He's so flexible, he almost hit his head on the board and pulled it down underneath.
Johnny McNeil is third.
Remember that Stacey Ogman played obviously in our Olympic team, along with Bimbo Coles, the only 2 guys left, as you talked about earlier. He has been a great international player for America, played in the World University Games and the World Championship team.
During the regular season, he had 66% of his free throws. Free throw. So he's 15 of 18. He's another one of the players who has upped his game in the NCAA tournament. Connie Chung will be coming up next. .104 to go. 86-79. Now it's 87-79. Ogman with 22, 9 rebounds. It's Scott. Not there. Brown rebounding it. Dribbles it to 3.
He's looking for Scott, but Ogman's on him. He can't find him.
So they find Oliver.
He
traveled. Big turnover with 45 seconds to go, and now Anderson Hunt telling the crowd in the Rebel corner to celebrate this one. Brown fouling Anthony, and Brown is fouled out of the game. And now the Duke student body, as you see, a very tearful Lois Tarkanian, the wife of that man. There, the Duke student body is pointing over at the UNLV student body saying, "We want you." And UNLV saying, "We'll be there." Tarkanian wanting a timeout. So he'll use a timeout. UNLV 87, Georgia Tech 79. Momentized here in McNichols Arena. The 3 stars for Georgia Tech put in 43 points in the first half and only 24 here in the second half. And UNLV's balanced attack, all 5 starters, including Stacey Ogman, in double figures. And Moses Scurry off the bench chipped in 9 big rebounds and 6 points. He was a factor as Larry Johnson got into foul trouble and left. So Jerry Tarkanian in his 3rd Final Four is now 44.8 ticks of the clock away from going to his first ever championship game. He had been eliminated previously by North Carolina and then a few years ago in New Orleans by Bob Knight and Indiana. Missed free throw. Anderson will hurry. Anthony with him.
Anderson realizing he's got to get threes, otherwise he would have penetrated on that play.
Oliver goes for the 2. 30 seconds to go. A quick timeout is called. Down 6. Georgia Tech is not about to quit. That's a team that still believes in miracles. We're coming right back. Well, Billy, what happens now?
Well, now you've got to foul the rest of the way. UNLV has on the floor a team that really is not a very good free throw shooting team. So you don't have to pick out a certain guy. I'd say you go for it as soon as that ball gets in bounds.
The free throw shooting percentages are there. It's doubtful that Scurry will handle the ball.
Well,
he's going to take it out of bounds.
Sure.
Right.
Smart move by Jerry Tarkanian. As soon as somebody touches it, though, you foul them. Don't worry about who it is.
It'll be Anthony coming to the free throw line. The clock down to 28.8.
And Brent, there has not been a bigger topic of discussion in the coaches' lobbies than this particular play right now. The intentional foul call. What the coaches are really concerned, what are we going to do about the last 2 minutes of the basketball game? And nobody really has come up with a solution that I've heard that everybody likes.
What's happening here is within the rules, and so obviously Bobby Crumlin's going to try to take advantage of it.
Everybody in the gymnasium, including the 3 refs, know the foul is going to be committed.
The agony of Lois Tarkanian as another free throw is missed. 27 seconds. They've got to hurry now. Anderson needs to find Scott.
Taking a lot of time.
Finally finds him at the top. Ogman out on him. Misfired. Scurry with his 10th rebound of the game. 13 seconds to go. Butler now to Hunt. And Butler to finish. He's got it. That'll do it. Yes, sir. Big sigh of relief.
2 ladies who have agonized, Mrs. Tarkanian and Mrs. Molesky, who have really supported this program. Good pass and a good job by Hunt here to go for the score, because if you pull it back out, they're going to foul you anyway. Here come the beats.
Almost.
I knew they were in there somewhere.
That was almost a turnover.
Yeah.
So a great run by Lethal Weapon 3 is coming to an end. UNLV goes to its first ever NCAA championship game. It'll be Las Vegas against Duke Monday night. The Chevrolet players of this game, Stacey Ogman. Georgia Tech shot 67% in the first half and only 34% in the second half. Ogman led the way at both ends. Dennis Scott still managed to score 29, but it was tough going in the second half. And Chevrolet will donate $1,000 to the General Scholarship Fund of both schools. And we'll come back and hear from Jerry Tarkanian in just a moment. And the man who keyed it in the second half was Stacey Ogman. Stacey, in the first half, it was tough going against Lethal Weapon. Tell me what you did differently against Scott in the second half.
Well, I stopped helping out and just started letting everyone take a one-on-one and let everyone defend head up. And he was a tough guy, you know. He hit his 3-pointers, and he did well.
Billy, you got Jerry.
Jerry, I have to go back to the first half of the ballgame. That was not UNLV's defense that we were looking at. Did you give them too much respect at the outset?
Well, we started off playing very soft, and our intention was to pressure, but I don't know, maybe the hype of the big game, something, but we came out and played cautiously. Second half, I thought we got after him good, and I thought that turned the game around.
Well, Brent, only one guy, Claire Beach, that's ahead of this guy in winning percentage all time. Congratulations, your first Final Four trip.
And we'll have a new champion on Monday night, either UNLV or Duke. And right now, let's go to Jim Nance. Jim?
All right, Brent, thank you. Consider the second half. UNLV outscored Georgia Tech 44-28. This is after Tech scored 53 in the first half, held to only 28 in the second half. Now, which 4 letters will this Final Four be remembered by? UNLV or DUKE? We'll find out Monday night. We'll come back to Denver in just a moment. Well, it was a terrific tournament run by Georgia Tech, but it falls short today to UNLV. And just a few moments ago, my colleague James Brown spoke with Coach Bobby Crimmins.
Coach, one impressive first half by the team. What in the world happened in the second half?
Well, that was the key to the game. We came out the second half and they got after us, and we kind of lost our composure. And truthfully, that's where the ball game was won for UNLV in the first 5 minutes. They got after us, and we just got a little rattled.
Coach, I got to ask you, at halftime, the players on your team were walking into the locker room chanting, "It's all hype, it's all hype," meaning that UNLV was a lot of hype. No. Do you think maybe they were a little too confident in the second half?
Yeah, maybe. No, UNLV is a fine basketball team, but we came out the first half ready to play, and it was just as first 5 minutes of the second half, I think we kind of lost our composure, and they got after it. They're a heck of a team, and they played great defense, and, you know, Kenny got in foul trouble. That really hurt us.
Again, a lot of the players talked about being very confident about the defensive pressure they were going to face from UNLV because they had faced Duke 3 times this year. Stacey Augmon, I guess, just couldn't count on what he was going to do.
No, it's going to be a great defensive game because Duke and UNLV, they're the 2 best defensive teams I've seen this year. Mike does a great job defensively, but UNLV can play defense. It should be a great championship game.
Coach, it's been a great run for you this season. Congratulations.
All right, thank you. I hope I'll be back. Appreciate everything.
All right, so I guess you can say that effectively ends the Lethal Weapon sequels. Now let's go back upstairs.
All right, James Brown. So the first Final Four of the 90s finds the winning team scoring in the 90s. 97-83, Duke advances, and 90-81, UNLV moves on to the Monday night championship game. Tonight on CBS, coming up in just a few moments, Saturday night with Connie Chung. And the lineup tomorrow on CBS Sports starts at 1:30 Eastern Time with the women's championship game between Auburn and Stanford. That coming your way from Knoxville, Tennessee. That'll be followed at 3:30 Eastern Time by a Western showdown. It'll be Duke against UNLV. Today, they earned their shot at the crown by providing us with a semifinal Saturday full of shining moments.
Ball is set, you feel the touch tonight, the rhythm in your shot, and your step is light, the crowd goes wild, as much is known, win another game, you be almost home, to that one shining moment, you reach for the sky, one shining moment, you
reason, and I don't know why we didn't play with the intensity we wanted, and they pretty much did anything they wanted. The first half, they really outran us. You know, our plan going into the game was to try to beat them down, have our big people beat their big people down court. We've been doing that almost all year. That's been that's been very effective for us all year. But the first half, they outran us, and we were fortunate only to be 6 down at halftime. I thought that was one of the keys. Is we were only 6 down at halftime, and I didn't think we had played hard. I didn't think we had played with the type of effort that we... I think the effort... It's hard to say what it was because I know our kids really wanted the game, and they were into the game, but it just didn't seem like we played with the... Like we were playing cautiously the first half. Maybe the pressures of the big game, the tournament. The first half, we were like a boxer coming out and feeling his way around. I thought the second half, we went after him real good, and I thought that was the difference in the game.
Okay, first question's right here. Phil?
Jerry, Larry Johnson got his 4th foul, and you took him out for a minute or so, and you put him back in. Could you talk about your thinking on that move?
Well, Butler had 4 falls, and Scurry had 4 falls also at that time. So, you know, I don't like to keep a guy out, a good player out too long. Obviously, I didn't think he'd fall out as fast as he did, but that was a real concern of ours at that point because all 3 big kids had 4 falls, and Stacey Augmon had 3 falls early in the second half. So we were really, at one point, in fact, we did do it at one point, and Scott hit a 3-pointer and Oliver hit a 2-pointer. We went to our zone, and I knew I shouldn't have gone to the zone because our man was working so great for us.
but we had everybody in foul trouble. We went to zone, and sure enough, as soon as we went to zone, Scott drilled a three-pointer. Then Oliver penetrated and hit a two-pointer in the lane.
Okay, in the back.
Jerry, Bobby Crimmins thought that he thought the Duke UNLV game would be decided by defense. Do you agree with that?
You know, I've always, I got great respect for Mike and Duke's basketball team and their program. We always say that their defense is a lot like ours. And in fact, we think around the country, we think that we play more similar defense than anybody else because we're one of the few teams, I think, that still gets out and pressures the lead passes and pressures the guards and still tries to front the center. I think the game has changed so much now where most people are into combinations and more of a gimmick defenses. But I think Duke and UNLV are two teams that play the same type of defense, and I got great respect for their defense.
Okay, right here.
I was going to ask all the players if they want to comment about the high energy of the game. Was it a physically punishing game?
Okay, we'll take an answer from Stacy first.
Yes, it was a very physical game, and it took a lot out. I speak for myself. It took a lot out of me, and I just have to go home, go back, and rest up.
Okay, Larry.
I thought it was physical. I'm speaking for like the big guys, me, Moses, and David, and the rest of our big guys. We like physical games. We love to get in there and bang it, and it was real physical. And then altitude became a factor. But when the game is physical like that, we just characterize it as a fun game. So it was a real fun game.
All right, we'll hear from the other big guy, Moses.
Well, I figured, the whole team, me, speaking on the whole team, we all did a great job, even though the altitude was bothering us, a great deal in the first half. We came out and did what we were supposed to do, and that's play harder, and everybody got together and sucked it up, and we did what we had to the second half.
Can I add something here? I really thought Moses was one of the keys to our victory today. I thought the last half, particularly, he just dominated the boards, and off the bench, I thought was a real key to our victory today.
Okay, in the back.
Yes, Stacy, can you talk a bit about the defense you played on Dennis Scott in the second half, denying him the ball?
Yeah, he's a great player. You can't deny it. Hello? All right. He's a great player. You can't take anything from him. And I did the best I could on him, and he still hit 29. So, the thing that I try to do is keep him to the lowest possible points. I can't go out and stop anyone. A great player is going to hit his shots on me, on anyone.
Okay, right here.
Larry, all through the tournament, you've been talking about the abilities of Moses coming off the bench in place of you. Can you comment on that tonight, and especially with your foul trouble?
Mo played a great game. Mo is a very intense player, and the fans love him because of his screaming, and we love him because he day in and day out practicing game. Moses come and give 110%, and lately Moses has been coming off the bench, and things hasn't been working out for him in the past couple of games. But this game, like Coach said, Moses was the key to the victory, and he came out and he just did a great job.
Okay, back here.
I'd like to ask Coach Tarkanian if Stacy's a little modest about what he did here. Is this as good a performance as he's ever done defensively? And I wonder particularly compared to what he did with Macon.
I thought his performance against Macon was great, and I thought his performance last year in the same arena against Sean Elliott was absolutely phenomenal. I thought that, in all fairness to Stacy, Scott got quite a few of his points when we were in our amoeba zone. In fact, it seemed like every time we went to our zone, he hit a three-pointer and made us pay for it. We were just hoping that he might miss a few of those and we can turn them into fast break buckets. I don't know how many got directly off Stacy, but I'm sure half of them came out of our amoeba zone.
Okay, Dick, right here.
Coach, you said the other day that whenever anybody writes about UNLV, they always write something negative. When they write about Duke, they never write anything negative. Some people will play this up as good versus evil. How unfair is that?
That's for you guys to decide. I'm not into that. I love my team. We're playing in the championship game, and I'm very proud of the guys. And if you guys, that's up to you guys. I'm not going to get into that.
Okay, back here.
Jerry, can you talk about what it would mean for you to win it? No.
Well, you know what, it would be great, to win it. Personally, I'm not into what a lot of you guys think. I have no personal, I would like to win it like any other coach would. It would be a tremendous thrill. But I think the greatest thing of all, it would be great for the state of Nevada and for the city of Las Vegas and our university. It would be really great. We have a great city that I think is the greatest city in America to live in. We have a great university, and I think it would be just tremendous for them. It would be great for the team, and obviously it'd be great for the coach. But I'm not into the thing as some people say, wouldn't this be nice, as some kind of a, I have never set that as a goal. Believe me, that's never been a goal of mine to win a national championship. I like us to play as well as we're capable of playing every game we play.
Okay, up front.
Stacy, late in the game, Kenny Anderson made a drive, and after he made the drive, you kind of looked at him and you shook your head. What were you thinking, and what did you say to him at that point?
Nah, I told him good move, and I can't remember really exactly what I said, but I was talking to him. You know, I can't really remember what I said, but oh, he's a great player. He has moves, every moves, playground moves, but he's under control. He's a great player.
Yes, from the back.
Yeah, this is for Greg Anthony. You and Anderson combined for 8 3-pointers. Was Tech sagging at all, trying to shut off Larry and David?
Yeah, they sagged a great deal, and Coach talked to us at halftime and told us if we had the open shot after we moved the ball and reversed it around, to take the open shot. And we were fortunate enough. Whenever you got great big men inside like we do, you're going to have the opportunity to take the open shot. If you can them like we did today, then you're going to be successful.
Okay, Ivan.
Larry, could you talk about their defense inside and why you had so much trouble and the fouls?
They play great defense. You can't take nothing away from them. I mean, you've been reading all week game coming up about how we just supposed to destroy them inside and do this, and I guess you guys just pumped them up, just come out and play their hearts out, and they did, and you just can't take nothing away from them. I mean, this is Division I basketball, and it's not like those guys 6'10", 240 pounds. It's not like those guys just can't play out there. And I was just me and the other big guy was just trying to do our best, and they were just out there doing their best. And, just fortunate enough for us, our perimeter guys did a great job, and we just came away with the victory.
Okay, over here.
It's for Jerry. Jerry, when you were up 6 with about 30 seconds left and Greg missed the free throw, you were down on one knee. Can you tell us what was going through your mind right there?
I was in agony through most of the game, believe me. And then when we get to the end like that, I told Greg after the game, I said, he's going to drive me to my grave. He's been missing a couple down the stretch. But I'll tell you one thing is, if Greg did not have the courage and the leadership that he's shown our team, our season would have ended a long time ago. So, he missed the free throws, but we're still grateful that Greg has had the courage to play through all these injuries.
Greg, did you see him do that?
No, I was too disappointed in myself, but I also had to keep myself focused, because even though I missed, we had to get back on defense, and if I had sat there and sulked, they might have got a 3. But I think that's a credit to our team. Even though I missed a couple free throws, we didn't give up a 3-pointer down the stretch to let them get back in it. Not that I could recall. We made them take some bad shots, and the biggest key I thought was Moses. His rebounding was exceptional, especially down the stretch. Every loose ball, it seemed like he had his hands on it.
Okay, in the back.
Coach, can you talk a bit about Hunt's contribution, Coach? He hit some big 3-pointers for you, didn't he?
When Anderson's shooting well, it puts us at a different level. He had some great 3-pointers for us, made some big plays, and Anderson plays good ball defense too. I thought his effort tonight was great. His 3-pointers were really critical, because I know at one point they'd cut it down, I think, to 2 or 3, and then he come down and hit a 3 and gave us a little cushion again. Then he came back and hit another 3 just a couple of minutes later. He had stomach cramps. That's why he didn't come. He was all knotted up in the training room.
Okay, over on the side.
Coach Tarkanian didn't want to talk about the morality play aspects of this, but can you talk about Duke versus UNLV in terms of the matchup and what you feel like you have to do, your style versus their style?
Well, I think Duke has a great ball club. I've always liked their ball club. I like the way they play. I think Mike just does a great coaching job. I really love their point guard, Bobby Hurley. It's the first time I've seen him play in person. You watch him on television, he's much quicker in person than he is on television. I'll tell you, he made some of those Arkansas guards look slow, which was really amazed me. And, of course, Henderson.
The coach and his
You know, people dream about this, and now it's finally coming true.
I'm looking at it, you know, like it's another game. You know, it's nice to be in the final two, and you know it'll be a good game for us because we match up so well.
We didn't play too good the first half, and second half we just came out and played defense. That's all. We've been playing defense the whole year, so that's